person who cares about people, and who cares about the patrons out there in the country, and who cares about Farmers Union. And so I'm going to ask Jerry to come to the podium. Ben, thank you so much. My wife travels with me to many meetings, and if my wife was not along today, she is along today, she's in the audience. If she weren't along today, Ben, then I'd probably get up here and say, well, Ben, that was an over-generous introduction, and I really don't deserve all that. But as long as she's along, I don't think I'll say it today. Well, when I got an invitation from Ben to come out, I was very grateful and appreciative, because I do enjoy coming out, making meetings like this. Many of you I only get a chance to see once a year, and it's a real pleasure to come out and visit, and I enjoy coming out, and I hope I get to see many of you more than once a year. We at Cenex work very closely with the Farmers Union. We work closely with all of the levels of the Farmers Union, the county, the state, and the national, of course. And as far as South Dakota is concerned, we work very closely with Ben and his staff. Ben sends, and his staff, I suppose they send thousands, yes, I suppose over the years, tens of thousands of people down by bus to tour the Cenex facility. And that, we think, is great. Ben and his staff will call us every once in a while as it would regarding pending legislation that we might be able to help on in one way or another. Yes, we also work, of course, very closely with the national level. Weldon Barton, who is in Washington, D.C., Reuben Johnson, who is in Washington, D.C., calls every once in a while as it would regard legislation that has much to do with agriculture. Just recently, as an example, feedlot runoff, barring the use of several agricultural chemicals, the allocation program on crude oil pricing, and so forth. So we do have a lot of close working relationship with the Farmers Union, and I'm not telling you anything, I'm sure, when I say that the Farmers Union Central Exchange, as always and always will, work real close and continue to look to its Farmers Union heritage in all sincerity. Well, at the beginning of the century, just as the Farmers Union was getting started, there really wasn't any protection for farmers, was there? But I'm confident, I'm truly confident, that the efforts of the Farmers Union organization to protect farmers from non-regulated free market then has saved millions and millions of dollars, not only for Farmers Union and cooperative members, but for all agriculture. And I think that's a pretty great record that Farmers Union has built for themselves over these many, many years. I guess it's service to people that really counts, and I can say in all sincerity that that's exactly what Farmers Union stands for, as I have found, and that is service to people. Well, it's amazing how much can be accomplished by working together, isn't it? Many of you have been down to the Farmers Union Central Exchange, that we now call Cenex as a market identifier or logo. And everything down there has been built by working together, not by putting in big sums of money, large investments popping up out of your checking account or your pocketbook, but by working together. When you look over this group today, and just think of the marketing power, just think of the power that you have by working together, and how much more we have if there were more people working together. I think it's a great experience to go to the National Farmers Union Convention and see the representatives and the delegates from 50 states, and then try to visualize or try to comprehend the tremendous power that all of those people represent if we were all working together at the same time. It's just tremendous. No other system has that great power cooperatives do. You know, when Roy Holman was up here today talking about going to Washington, he and 100 other people, practically pleading with the United States Department of Agriculture to get another 50 cents per hundredweight for milk, it must be discouraging and it must be disappointing, as he said, to almost be disregarded by these people. I guess that Farmers Union over the years has sent hundreds and hundreds of planeloads and busloads to Washington, D.C., and believe me, ladies and gentlemen, it has done a lot of good. Secretary Butts just lately, and you probably have been reading that he has been making some comments that have been very anti-cooperative, and I hope that it doesn't result in anything that's detrimental to the crops, but we sure need to keep a close eye on it. As an example, he said that the Capra-Volstead Act probably needs to be amended because it gives unfair advantages to marketing co-ops, like GTA as an example. That cooperatives could become very dangerous if they get too large, they could be monopolistic. And that the tax laws ought to be reformed because this too can be dangerous if the cooperatives get any larger. That's getting some pretty rough statements that Secretary Butts has been making lately. You know, I saw a caption on a cartoon a few days ago. I think maybe we'll have to organize, all of us, and use that caption. And it said, let's tell the Department of Agriculture to get off its butts. I think we'll all have to get together and do that. Well, during the next roughly 15 minutes that I have allotted to me, I'm going to try to capsulize for you what Cenex is doing so far as trying to control our supply market. It's pretty hard to farm if you don't have the major inputs that you need for your farming operation, and Cenex is going to make and is making every effort conceivable to see to it that in the cooperative system, that Cenex, not alone, but in working with many other regionals and interregional cooperatives, is basic and a major input so that you do have the security of knowing that you're going to get the product that you need. Petroleum, fertilizer, steel, whatever it is that you need, the major inputs, regardless of political strife, regardless of national or international markets, regardless of the uncertain economics that seem to control our markets, you would have the security of knowing that you would get your own product because you have your own plants. And I'm going to try and capsulize that in the next few minutes as to what is being done. It's extremely important that we do, as a cooperative system, control our supply market. The National Council of Farmer Cooperatives in Washington, D.C., that's made up of, I believe they have something like 50-some members across the United States, cooperatives of all kinds, REAs, cooperative finance, telephone cooperatives, regional cooperatives, and so forth, kept a tab during the extreme petroleum shortage, during that period when it was really short, of all the telephone calls that they got from farmers across the United States, and almost every telephone call was the same, that such and such a co-op in my hometown down here will not sell me petroleum. The reason that local cooperative wasn't selling that man petroleum is because they hadn't been trading there before. But the point I want to make is that any time that we get in deep trouble, it does seem that farmers look toward their cooperative because it's a farmer organization. And even if they've not been dealing with that cooperative before, they still look to it because it's a farmer organization, and they think that they ought to get some help. Well, that's not the way an allocation program works, and so they didn't get help. But there have been a goodly amount of farmers that have gone to local cooperatives that managers have related to us at Cenex that when supply is ample again, and particularly fertilizer, that they would like to start dealing with their local cooperative because that local cooperative was able to furnish a larger percentage of fertilizer than the non-co-op counterpart was during the shortage. More growth. Well, petroleum. I don't suppose that there would be 1 out of 1,000 agricultural analysts that in 1970 would have predicted that by 1974 there would be 50 million additional idle acres into production. And of course that's one of the many reasons that we had a petroleum shortage. Board of Directors of Cenex authorized $50 million to increase the size of the refinery of Laurel that you own. They also increased this past year an exploration program that's almost 6 times the size of any exploration program that there has been before, carried on by Cenex, and that was to the tune of about $6 million to go out and explore and find more oil wells. And it is good news to know that 6 oil wells have been brought on stream, 6 producers, in about the last 6 months in North Dakota. The national average on drilling for oil, you know, is that out of every 17 holes, you get 1 producer. Fortunately, Cenex has been much more successful in that. It's been something like 1 in 10. I hope that ratio, I hope that geologists can keep that percentage about like that. I mentioned a little while ago that the State Farmers Union organizations, I know that Ben goes to Washington periodically, and also the National Farmers Union has been helping us, or we've been helping them, I believe I should say, work on the price of crude oil, where everybody would say pay the same price for crude oil, all refineries. And I hope that eventually will come to be. At this point, it certainly hasn't. You see, the large major that has all of his own oil wells is paying about $5.47 a barrel for crude oil. And those of us that need to buy crude oil on the outside the domestic United States are paying $12.50 a barrel. You know that about 18 months ago in South St. Paul, the retail price for regular gasoline out of the pump was 25.9 cents per gallon. And now, 18 months later, we're paying 30 cents a gallon for crude oil. Just imagine that difference. Well, it's something that we hope can be regulated very shortly. There's been a large interregional organization that's been formed. It was formed because I guess nothing points up so much during a time of acute shortage as the necessity of working together. How vital that is to work together. So during the petroleum shortage, there were 17 regional cooperatives, Cenex and 16 others, from the East Coast to the West Coast, and from North to South, all across the United States, that got together and formed an organization called Interregional Energy Cooperative. The prime function of this is to explore for oil on foreign soil. Tomorrow I will be at a meeting in Chicago where these 17 regionals will get together, and each of us will have and do have approval from our respective boards of directors, so that we will be making a decision as to whether or not we do go on a $23 million exploration program in Portugal, Cairo, Egypt, and off the west coast of Africa. Now that's the first time in the history of cooperatives that a group of regional cooperatives have gotten together that a few years ago probably weren't even speaking to each other, and are working together now and investing their money together for the common cause of their owners, the cooperative system, agriculture. We hope that works. The one thing that was really gratifying, I thought, when this interregional was formed was the tremendous interest, the tremendous receptiveness so far as foreign countries are concerned. They like to work with cooperatives. They say that they have had some bad experiences over the years working for the majors. They felt they've been taken advantage of from time to time, whether they have or not. They say they have, and they want to work with cooperatives. They want to work with agricultural cooperatives. Some of them want to trade their crude for food, but by and large, they want to trade their crude for agricultural technology. They want the cooperatives of this country to go over to their countries and show them how to perform what's being done here, the greatest agricultural country in the world. That's what they really want. Well, eventually this could result in a giant, supersized refinery that would serve the cooperatives. The cooperatives would then be self-sufficient as far as petroleum is concerned. They would have their natural resources, their crude oil, and they would also have their refineries and be dependent upon no one. Well, then we get to fertilizer. All of you have heard of what 28 years ago started out as the Central Farmers Fertilizer Company. Today it's called CF Industries. It's made up of 17 regional cooperatives in the United States and Canada. And it is, beyond a shadow of a doubt, the most successful cooperative story in North America. It has truly done what it started out to do. There were many days when things were pretty dark. There were times 2 years ago when it appeared it might go through bankruptcy. Didn't know they could get any more money. Some of the members started leaving. But today, it has achieved what it started out to do. A tremendous story. Here is one area where you do own a good share of the facilities. You own all the facilities for a good share of the product that you need, the fertilizer that you need. There's a lot more, however, to be done. The objective of CF Industries, again, is to have enough facilities, processing and manufacturing facilities, own their own natural resources. So here again, that the cooperative system, you as cooperative owners and members, do not have to rely on anybody else for your fertilizer, and will get all that you need. The 5-year forecast for CF Industries and capital expenditures to meet this objective is $1 billion. That, I would guess, is a new high in cooperative business, $1 billion. At the June board meeting, capital expenditures were approved to the tune of $438 million. And at the last board meeting, and they're held quarterly, we approved an expenditure of $20 million, which used to sound like awfully big money, but anymore it doesn't sound so big. And that $20 million was for an ocean-going barge that would bring fertilizer from Tampa, Florida to New Orleans, and there it's put on river barges and brought up here so that we can use it. And if we didn't have that one vital link in our transportation system, even though it costs a lot of money, we could have all kinds of fertilizer in Florida that we would not get here. So it is important. It's another link, another area to further control our supply markets. You have heard several occasions, Project Independence, as far as the United States is concerned. The same thing needs to be true for cooperatives, self-sufficiency, so far as your input system for your farm. The board of directors of Cenex 6 or 8 months ago approved a $50,000 expenditure to invest in a small steel mill out in Colorado. Investor-oriented, private, not cooperative. And that $50,000 assures Cenex of getting 17% of all of their production, and all of their production is wire and steel principles. Now that's not a lot, that's not big, but it's another step in controlling your supply market. And it's a real necessary one. The cooperatives don't own a tire factory, but they do own their own tire molds and heaters, and there has to be a heater for each tire mold. And just think of all the tire molds that are necessary for every different size passenger car, every different size truck, every different size tractor. There has to be a separate mold for each size, and each mold costs $400,000. Gosh, that's a lot of money. But you have to have it if you want to control your supply market, because you wouldn't be getting the amount of tires that you're getting today if we didn't have it. So we're talking awfully big money today, it seems. But if we want to be effective for all of the people that own this cooperative system, then it's going to take big money, and we're playing in a real big ballgame. Universal Cooperative, which is another interregional that Cenex is part of, second largest owner, just granted $100,000 or set aside the seed money for a project to determine if it's feasible for cooperatives to become basic in agricultural timber. And you all know how short they've been. Matter of fact, the man has been hired from the Union Carbide Company to get this project. Now works for the cooperatives. And I believe that down the road it will materialize. But it'll take some doing. But at least you'll control that market too eventually, if this works. Well, my 20 minutes are up, and I'd like to summarize by saying that I do believe that your cooperative system is well on the way toward self-sufficiency in the major inputs that you need for your farms. Several years ago, that was kind of pie in the sky. That was something that we dreamed about. Today, it's being achieved. Today, it's becoming a reality. It's no longer something that we need to dream about. We can do it, and we will. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry Tvedt from Cenex. Now, the next speaker we'll hear from is Lowell Hargens. Lowell Hargens is Assistant General Manager of Farmers Union Grain Terminal Association. He has been with the GTA for 34 years. During that time, he has become a widely known co-op official. A native of our neighboring state of Montana, Lowell was reared in Montana, attended college there, and began his GTA career there, starting as an accountant in the Great Falls office. He served in the military during World War II, and after military service returned to the Great Falls office. In 1955, he was transferred to the St. Paul headquarters, where he worked as an auditor. In 1961, he was named the head of GTA's line elevator division, a post he has held until 1968, when he was named as Assistant General Manager. Before I call on Lowell to come up here, then, I would like to introduce the directors from GTA, who are in the audience. And Norman Olson and Phil Testerman are our two GTA directors. Are those gentlemen in the audience? Well, they were. Oh, there's Norman. Is Phil here? Well, Phil is also a candidate for the legislature. He may have some campaigning to do. And we want him to win that one. So if he's not here right now, we're going to excuse him. Also in the audience is Emma Lorex, a longtime past director of GTA. Emma, will you stand? And I haven't seen August Domi, who is also a past director. Okay? Then just let me call on Lowell to come up here. Lowell is sort of pinch hitting for Barney, who at first had said he would come in because of a family family affair, family event of some kind. He called me and was very apologetic and said that he couldn't come. And I said, well, we'll let you off this time. But Lowell was going to do a great job in pinch hitting for him. Okay, Lowell?
Thank you, Mr. President, Mr. Radcliffe, officers, delegates, and guests of this convention. I too am happy to have a chance to come out on Mr. Molesky's behalf. Ben said something about a family affair, some kind of engagement. It so happens, you know, that when some of the young people decide that they are entering into the sea of matrimony and wish to become married, there isn't too much you can do about changing the dates on some of those. Barney had a niece who was going to be married, one that was very close to their family, and so he felt it was his obligation to be at her wedding. And he said to express his sorrow that he couldn't be with you, but he's been with you a number of years, and he hopes that he'll be able to be back again next year. And of course, it was my pleasure and my happy opportunity to take his part in this program. I might just say, I would like to just take a minute here, though, and say that we have quite a number of GTA employees in the audience, those of area offices, auditors. I have with me the Director of Public Relations from St. Paul, Dick Johansson. I'd like to have all those employees please stand. I know that Ben and his staff at the Farmers Union does a good job in keeping you up on daily happenings that concern you as farmers, as you as members of the Farmers Union, and you as patrons of the farmers cooperatives. And it's as I said, my happy privilege here today that I can be part of this cooperative business section along with Jerry and John. And it's my duty to not bring you a lot about our theory and one thing's another about that, because I think that's mainly Ben's area and he does a good job on it. But while it's important to us also, I'm going to try to give you a little bit about what's happened in GTA the past year and maybe a couple things about what we might think looks like for this year. As most of you know, 1973 was the best crop year ever for most grain producers in this country, including many in South Dakota. That was because we had good crops and record-breaking prices. They were the best prices that had ever been until that time. Your local co-ops, together with GTA, did a job of moving your crops that were tremendous. That job done despite a great shortage of transportation equipment and many other difficulties. But as a result of your work over the years in building your own grain marketing system, you did get most of the grain that you wanted to sell at the best prices marketed. In addition to your big grain check, those who marketed cooperatively have received or will soon receive big additional returns from their cooperatives, almost without exception. This was a record year for savings by local cooperatives, just as it was for your GTA. It was the greatest year ever, far surpassing anything in earlier years. Thus, farmers who went GTA the co-op way have extra savings which non-cooperatives won't enjoy. In the 1973-74 market year, now remember I'm talking about not the one we just harvested, but the year before, our record crops of wheat, corn, soybeans, and other grains found record use here at home, combined with record exports abroad. This demand was so great because of the world industrial boom, which gave most countries more buying power. Now the big wheat crops went to the lower income countries, and the big feed grain crops went to the better off countries to help produce livestock, poultry, and dairy products. The balance of demand and supply finally brought farm prices to parity after long years of being far below parity. Your local co-op elevator handled a record number of bushels. So GTA had to handle a record volume of grain from these elevators. By using thousands of trucks and what rail cars we could get, we got your grain to our Superior or the Twin City terminal elevators and loaded it on barges and into boats for export or on unit trains for distribution all over the United States. It took a lot of overtime work under hard pressure to move this record volume. But the job was done despite all the handicaps. We kept our terminal elevators open and the grain moving, and we offered a market for your grain every day of the year. That was better than some of the big international grain companies were able to do. Another reason for this success was that GTA has processed more and more of your grain. Without these processing plants, you could not have handled the grain as well, and your total returns would have been less. It was a wise decision years ago when you decided to do more than just sell and store your grain. Year by year, you are farther along the road to the final consumer. That's the road to bigger returns. And that's why GTA has consistently pushed towards more processing. Sales and use of GTA feed grew during this year, thanks to the support of tens of thousands of farmers and ranchers in many states. South Dakota is the leading state along with Minnesota using GTA feeds, and I want especially to congratulate you here on your fine use of your own feeds through your own co-op elevators. The Great Plains Building Supply Yards also had a good year as farmers did more building despite the shortage of lumber. GTA savings will soon be out to the local elevators and to the patrons of the line elevators and patrons of the Great Plains yards. The full details of this year's business will be given at GTA's annual meeting to be held in St. Paul on November 19th and 20th. You're all invited to the meeting, but please let us know if you're coming because we do have trouble getting hotel rooms unless we plan ahead. The record GTA savings means record cash payments will be coming to you and as members and patrons. And they mean more improvements in your GTA marketing system. We will also be paying a record educational fund to your state farmers union to carry on promotion and encouragement of GTA qualities, and that's very important. Our board of directors announced earlier this summer that any GTA patron who is 72 years of age before January 1st, 1975, and has retired and owns no land, can get all of his investments in GTA returned in cash if he wants. This has a long desired step, but one that we could not afford to take until now. To get their investment, those who are 72 or older must apply for payment and should do so, as this policy may change in the future, depending on the ability to continue it. The board also ordered the payment in cash of all those holding 6% preferred capital equity certificates, which had been held for at least 10 years, or which are held by the state. This is not an official calling of either of these investments, but they may be redeemed for cash at this time. For both of these cash retirements, you should see your local elevator manager, your line elevator manager, or your Great Plains manager at all the places where you have done business. They will tell you how to apply. The board is very happy to be able to make this retirement for all those who have so loyally built GTA throughout the years. They hope to be able to keep up such retirements in the future. But as I said, that depends on the business. A considerable part of GTA's record savings have gone into major improvements made or started this past year. We are now leasing 650 hopper cars to better serve our local members and to move grain from our terminal elevators to ports and users across the country. As most of you know, we recently bought a share in a major barge line on the Mississippi River. We did this along with several of the supply cooperatives, including, as Jerry said, Cenex. The Supply cooperatives will barge fertilizer up the river, while we and other grain cooperatives move grain down the river. This will let us compete better with the big international grain companies who have long owned their own barging rights. We started work during the year on a second truck up in Superior, which will soon be finished. This will give us faster service at the head of the lakes for truckers who haul grain from local elevators to GTA. During the year, we have rebuilt several lumber yards to improve them and bring them up to date. We opened a new feed mill in Wilbur, Minnesota, to replace the old feed mill that burnt down at Montevideo. The improvements were also made in the research farm, and other feed services were expanded. At all of our terminal elevators, processing plants, we have had to spend money to comply with pollution control requirements. Some of these expenses are quite large and do not add in any way to our ability to handle grain more efficiently. If anything, these requirements reduce efficiency and just add to the business costs. We have been modernizing our soybean process plant at Mankato and expanding it. We are also going to add to the malting capacity at the Winona plant. I would say one of the most significant moves that we have made during the past year was to concentrate our field staff into 12 area offices to give the maximum service to local and line elevators. Offices serving this area in South Dakota, in addition to the one at Aberdeen, are the one at Sioux City, Iowa, and the one at Montevideo, Minnesota. They are now all connected electronically to a new communication center at our main office in St. Paul. Now it is possible for all the details of a minute-to-minute sales contract to be transmitted instantly back and forth between the area office and St. Paul. Other business information can also be sent over this network to all offices at the same time or to any combination of them. These offices also get the latest market information over high-speed national grain news service. And then by phone, these offices can keep local and line managers advised on the markets on a minute-to-minute basis. And this has really been important in the last few months with the widely fluctuating markets. When this communication system gets working fully, there will be greater benefits to the local elevators and much improved service to individual patrons and members. With this system, GTA now has the best market communications in this area. We have made our entire staff available for helping local elevators to get its job done in this time of rapid market changes. Now let's take a quick look at the year that we're in, this current marketing year. Despite the efforts of American farmers to put in a big crop and to harvest a new record grain supplies, the weather gave us one setback after another. We still came up with a record crop, wheat crop, and one of our largest corn and soybean crops after facing just about all the hazards that nature could throw at us. Here in South Dakota, you were not as lucky. You were probably hurt worse than most states. Only your wheat crop was good, with corn down to less than half a crop and lower if you take into account the lower feeding value of it. Oats, barley, grain sorghums, and flax seeds are also well below a year ago. Combined with a much lower livestock prices and constantly raising costs of both crops and livestock products to producers, the prospects for another year of record farm income have been turned around to where many farmers just hope they can break even and live to another harvest and to have a better crop next year. However, there are some consolations in the short crop in today's grain prices. Most of them are at record levels. Continued strong demand for grain in this country and abroad firms up prices after they had dropped off earlier this year in anticipation of record crops. Now we have a very close balance between supply and demand, resulting in wildly fluctuating markets that make it difficult for the producer to know when to sell and difficult for the elevator manager too. Just as a year ago, when transportation was our big headache, we are required to have safer buying margins. Now with widely fluctuating prices and higher interest rates combined with high grain prices, managers must buy grain on sufficient margins to cover these greater costs and much greater risk that they face today. In a co-op, though, you will get good dividends back from these wider margins, which of course will not be true if your grain is sold to a non-cooperative elevator. This situation has not been made any better by the moves in Washington this last week to put arbitrary controls on exports. That move takes us back to a year earlier when soybean exports were cut off, much to the harm of the soybean producer. For many years, we in GTA worked hard to get adequate minimum prices under farm products by action of Congress. Remember, we used to have the slogan, farm prices are made in Washington. Now, by action of the President and the Secretary of Agriculture, rather than by Congress, farm prices are again made in Washington, these times by limiting exports. This time it puts a lid on prices. There will continue to be big questions about our grain supplies and grain markets until another crop is in the bin. Until then, GTA, grain cooperatives, and farm groups must keep a careful watch over the policy decisions made in Washington by the administration about grain. One of the principal needs of cooperative grain farmers have today is to go farther into exports through their cooperatives. Today we do little exporting, although local co-ops handle over 40% of the nation's grain. We urgently need an export elevator on the Pacific coast to export to the Orient. Your GTA board has been leading in this by meeting with the boards of 3 other regional cooperatives which need such an elevator. It will take more cooperation between co-ops and some hard cash to get this done. We hope we are approaching the time when we will have a complete cooperative grain service available at the North Pacific coast of Japan and other Oriental countries, instead of having to go through the big international grain traders for all the shipments made there. This is a growing market, and South Dakota farmers would benefit by being able to sell directly to it. Your board of directors has been meeting with the Cenex board of directors regularly to search out ways which these 2 regional cooperatives can cooperate more fully. These 2 boards have been meeting with the Farmers Union presidents in our states to find ways we can better work together to serve you patrons out on the land, Farmers Union members, GTA and Cenex patrons. Your board has also met with other regional cooperatives to find new joint ventures besides the ones we are already in. As Jerry mentioned, the National Council of Farm Cooperatives, GTA, is also a member of this group, and we use it widely in trying to meet with other boards and other directors to see how we can work together to better serve our patrons here in the Northwest. Your board is convinced that the producers need the closest coordination of farm supplies and marketing in order to meet the challenges of big corporations. Joy pointed out to you that it is time when they need to get scarce supplies such as fertilizer and petroleum products. It is also a time when it is a struggle to secure good grain markets. If some of you have questions about the GTA policies, you will want to talk to your South Dakota directors and introduce them to you a little earlier. These are active members on the GTA board, and you should keep in touch with them. Let me say on behalf of management that we are proud of your GTA directors. They, as Jerry indicated from his Cenex board of directors, are aggressive in trying to meet with other co-op directors around the United States, realizing that we must all work together more and more if we're going to achieve the things we need for farmers in the future. I believe we have to find ways to make even fuller use of our cooperative marketing system, or we will stand a good chance of losing control of our farms. The whole trend of modern marketing is to tie together the total operation from the raw materials to the final consumer product with a growing system of contracts and other controls. We have seen it happen in the poultry industry, and it can happen in other commodities. Farmers have a choice of doing modern marketing through their own cooperatives or by doing nothing and leave it to the large agribusiness companies to dictate more and more the terms under which farm products will be raised and marketed. That's why we had better go ahead as fast as we possibly can to expand our cooperative system. We have come a long way already and can go farther on the fine results of the past year when we set all-time records for valuable service at local and regional co-ops. You in South Dakota have helped build up the great GTA marketing system, and I am sure you are going to do your best to support and strengthen it in the coming year. It will take our best effort to prepare for the kind of world in which we live today. It's a world full of explosive issues, unforeseen dangers, as well as great opportunities for those who are properly prepared to take advantage of them. Let us be among those who are prepared for the kind of world in which farmers can make a great contribution if they are just well enough organized. Then on behalf of GTA, I would like to thank you and your staff on the fine cooperation we've had this year and past years. And we know that we need to work together. And I can't think of any better place than, as I just said, for people in the farm to be organized and through the South Dakota Farmers Union and through the farmers' cooperatives. Thank you.
Thank you, Lowell. Now we come to the third cooperative that we have represented here today. Farmers Union Marketing and Processing is also a regional cooperative. We don't always think of it that way, but it is. It covers several states, and its manager is Mill Holton, who is not able to be with us today. And the three directors that we have on that cooperative from South Dakota are Leif Lunder, Frank Butler, and Harvey Falstad. If these gentlemen are here, will they stand, please? There's Leif Lunder, and there's Harvey Falstad. Is Frank here? Anyhow, those are the three. Let's give them a hand. Now, I expect the next presentation is going to be a little different because I know John McMurray, and he's a cattle buyer, and he knows his business, and you're going to be interested in what he has to say. I have an introduction here on him, but he's a guy that you'll really be interested in hearing. John McMurray is a well-known livestock marketing specialist who recently returned to South Dakota to direct marketing of livestock for the Commodity Trading Company, a subsidiary of the Farmers Union Marketing Association. John has a wealth of experience in the livestock industry, dating back nearly 25 years. He was previously manager of the Farmers Union branch at the Sioux Falls Livestock Yard. You remember the Farmers Union Livestock Commission firm we had in Sioux Falls? John was the manager of that commission firm at one time. For several years, he managed an Argentina ranch in South America and served as head cattle buyer at the Sioux Falls Stockyards for a major U.S. meat packer. Until recently, he worked as a GTA field consultant for northern Montana and Canada, and now he's working for Farmers Union Marketing and Processing. And with that introduction, I'll just bring John up here and get acquainted with him. John?
Ben, thank you very, very much. Delegates, fellow Farmers Union members, and guests. You know, Ben has been to several meetings where I spoke, and I realized that he always has tongue-in-cheek when I come up to the mic because, you know, I used to be an auctioneer. And if you take a man who once was an auctioneer, a farm boy born and raised on a farm in Illinois, and you put these things together along with the cattle buyer, you really don't know what that son of a gun's going to say once he gets up there. And so I'm sure that Ben he's just sitting there kind of shaking in his boots. I wonder what John's going to let loose of now. And all I can say is this: I am here to report upon your company, and for the fiscal year ending June the 30th, 1974, your Farmers Union Marketing and Processing Association again reported record earnings. Net before tax margins were $3,135,000. These results reflect the unusual high level of prices for commodities that began to develop nearly 2 years ago. The net income before taxes in the Central Byproduct Division is $3,066,000, accounting for the major part of the total, and the net income from the Marketing Division was $69,630. Educational funds paid to the Farmers Union State Organization totaled $159,000, of which South Dakota received $13,615 of this amount, which largely reflects the earnings from the rendering plant located at D. Smith. Farmers Union Marketing and Processing Association expanded its livestock marketing operation to include order buying and direct marketing. And yours truly was employed by the Commodity Trading Company, which is a subsidiary of the parent company. And my job is to work for you the best of my ability for the betterment of your life and your livelihood. And what do I actually do? I'll tell you what. It is my belief that this great state of South Dakota and the members of the Farmers Union family in South Dakota, as well as North Dakota, Montana, and Minnesota, need some place to turn to, someone to give them what I consider the best advice that I can come forth with after talking all over the United States many times during the week. What is actually happening and what is the future in the livestock industry for you. And so this is a service which is brought to you. It is new. We started in March, and it will certainly depend upon you and your use of this service, whether it will succeed or fail. And certainly we think only of success, because they told me once what success was. And success is the following: using one's abilities and his talents to the best of his ability for the betterment of mankind. And if you do that, you will be successful. The order buying portion of this operation is strictly, as I would say, one of the nicest services that's ever been offered in the state of South Dakota. I myself buy all of the cattle that the Commodity Trading Company places. I personally buy the cattle, and I represent the cattle exactly and honestly as the cattle were bought, and for this the company receives a commission. Plain and simple. There's no hanky-panky, there's no funny business. It's an honest, clean-cut operation, and it's founded on the basic rule of the golden rule. And this is how we're going to try to operate this operation, as close to the golden rule as it all is possible. Now, a little bit of my background, which Ben brought out, and now we're getting to the story time. Ben, it's going to be, and this is the part he's starting to worry about. But anyway, I was born and raised in Illinois, and on a farm, and it was a Duroc hog and a Hereford cow that afforded me the opportunity to go to school at Iowa State University, and there I majored in stupidity, and I was a valedictorian of that class, because all that they ever taught me how to do was produce, and no one ever told me how to market it after I got it produced. Now you know what I'm talking about if you're a farmer, because we've all been caught in that situation. And then from there I went to work with a major factory at Alberley, Minnesota, and from there to South America, where I managed cattle ranches, returned to Sioux Falls as their head buyer, then became the manager of fat cattle salesman with the Farmers Union Marketing in Sioux Falls, was hired away and went to South St. Paul, and from there I came back into the Farmers Union family and went with the Grain Terminal Association in Havre, Montana, and there I worked on the high line of Montana, got to understand the western ranchers' problems, and also the Southern Alberta cattle feeders problem. And then last February, returned with the Farmers Union marketing to set up this new service, which is being offered to everyone in the United States. And certainly we believe that we have a situation developing now in the livestock business, which it behooves us all to help, to move the livestock from the Farmers Union members' ranch, from the Farmers Union members' feedlot, into the best possible hands available. And now all I can say about people who, and I say this to you, the grain farmer, if you do not feed livestock, find somebody that does and kiss that man, because I'm going to tell you something. If no one feeds this livestock, there's not really going to be a great demand for your grain, especially your corn. And you know, we do have problems now. Our orders have completely changed. A year ago at this time, they were asking for exotics, long, stretchy cattle, big bone cattle that would grow up to heavy weights. Now that order's completely turned around. We want shorthorn cross cattle. Lloyd Larson, your cattle are coming back in style. And we're looking for shorthorn type cattle, and we're also looking for black cattle, something that will finish without any corn. Something that I think we're looking for a miracle animal, something that will get fat on northwest wind and huckleberries, as we call them. Something that just fleshes up pretty much by itself. And so you see what is happening in the major feedlots where I do send livestock. They have turned away from corn. They actually have these same computers that GTA has when they formulate feeds, least cost gains. Least cost gains have plugged in now, and corn is out. It's your major feedlots, potato meal and beet pulp has replaced corn. Now, if this continues for a very lengthy period of time, fellas, you're going to lose a part of your corn market. And all I can say is maybe this is good. At least the church that I belong to is advocating this, that we do not feed grains to livestock. And so maybe this is good for the world in general. But all I can say is one thing. In my own humble opinion, the world is short of food. I won't argue that point with anyone. But they're short of one kind of food, and that's free food. And fellas, you can't produce free food any way you want to cut it. And all I can say is we would certainly enjoy working with you folks in any way possible. And if any time that I or anyone with the Farmers Union marketing can be of service, please feel free to call upon us. And we certainly would appreciate your support, because the success is great, and a great part of our success will depend on you and people you know. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, John. And I hope you're writing questions on those cards, because I've just asked the pages to start picking them up. And while they're getting up here with these cards, I'll introduce the moderator of the panel, and I'm going to turn it over to him. And we're running about 15 minutes late, but that's no problem. Ken, we'll run for a while anyhow with questions. Ken Stilson, who is the manager of the Farmers Union Oil Company of Britain, manages one of the best and most progressive cooperatives in South Dakota, local cooperatives. And if you don't think so, turn to that near back page where it lists educational funds paid. And you find that Kenny Stilson's co-op paid the largest amount in educational funds of any cooperative. Kenny Stilson's cooperative checks dues. Nearly all the members in Marshall County are checked from that cooperative, in addition to paying that kind of educational funds. And I submit to you that that's good business for a cooperative, to check dues and pay educational funds. If you don't believe it, talk to Kenny. He's built the co-op on that basis, and we're proud of that co-op and Kenny Stilson as the manager. Also, Ken Stilson is the president of the Cenex Managers Association, the South Dakota Cenex Managers Association. They met in here last week, and Kenny is the president of that association, so you see he's well respected by his peers. He has a wife and 4 children, and we just, he's been manager up there for 11 years, and before that he worked for the company, and he grew into the manager's job. Ken Stilson, manager of Farmers Union Oil Company, Britain.
Thank you, Ben. Before we get started here, I'd like just a few minutes. I know there's quite a few managers here with me today, and at this time I'd like to recognize all of the managers of the local co-ops. Would you stand, please, all of the managers of the co-ops? There they are. Give me a hand. Also here today, I see there are quite a group of Cenex field reps. These people are very important to all of us as managers. They're the ones that, when we get into problems, they're the ones we call. They're the ones that we depend on to have the answers or get the answers for us. Would all the Cenex field reps please stand? Now, Ben mentioned just a little bit about the Britain Co-op, and of course, being from Marshall County and having the opportunity to get up here, I'm bound to get a plug in here. Marshall County, if you notice in the back, and now this is the county membership that I see that Marshall County is 3rd in the state in Farmers Union membership. I believe Paul Simmons is here. Paul, are you in the audience here? Paul? He isn't here right now. Paul's been here all day. Paul is a young farmer. He's the president of the Marshall County Farmers Union. He's doing a great job. He's an aggressive young farmer living there. He's active in the young farmers group of the South Dakota Farmers Union. He has been to quite a few of their meetings and so on. At this time, I believe we'll get right into the question and answer period. I have some questions here. I'll read the question and then I'll turn it over to the gentleman, one of the 3 speakers that you just heard. These 3 men are well versed in co-ops, and I'm sure that they'll have an answer for you. Well, I have one just came up here. I think I'll start with that. This is for Mr. McMurray. The question is, Mr. McMurray, how does the fat cattle sales program work? Would you care to comment just a little bit on this?
Well, just on the top of my head, I'll just have to say this: the fat cattle sales program in the United States isn't working worth a diddly at the present time. If you're talking about the Farmers Union marketing facilities at Fargo and at South St. Paul, I think that we're doing as well as anyone else is as far as getting the most for the livestock that is available for sale. I also happen to have a question handed to me here. And it says here, what is your outlook for the cattlemen in the next year or 2? Well, you tell me what the outlook is for the grain man the next year or 2, and I'll tell you what the cattleman's outlook is. I can just say this: we have quite a problem. If you would be honest with yourself, at planting time, when we went back to the corn planter, if you remember at that time, Secretary of Agriculture Butts was shooting for $1.70 corn. And Mother Nature didn't cooperate with him at all. And by golly, we kind of jumped back. And so all I can say is I have a personal opinion that if this corn gets much higher, and if this cattle on feed report gets much lower, that we might see some action taken by politicians, certainly, to try to bolster up the cattle industry. And there again, folks, I don't mean to stand in front of you people and tell you the plight of the cattleman. You know the plight of the cattleman. The man that needs to know that is back east, or the people that are eating this meat are the people we have to talk to about that. But I personally believe that now's a good time to buy. And naturally, you would say, well, he would say that because he's selling feeder cattle. But I honestly do. When I see heifers being sold at $75 a piece and steer calves at $100 a piece, and I think that it's time, that's just about, if you want to talk about a depression, that's it. And I think it's time to get in there and get a hold of some of this sheep stock, some of these calves at these prices.
Thank you, Mr. McMurray. I have one here now. We're going to switch over to Mr. Tvedt. The question is, will the oil discovery in Mexico recently affect the world crude oil prices?
No, it's not, and this is strictly conjecture, of course, but Mexico has had very little of their own oil. And while they may export some, it'll have no bearing at all upon the price of crude oil that's exported into the United States. As a matter of fact, most economists feel, and most people that are knowledgeable in the oil industry feel that there will not be any change in crude prices that come into this country for many years. They don't believe that they'll go up to speak of, but certainly they'll not come down.
Thank you. Okay, let's switch over to Mr. Hargens. The question, can 72-year-olders receive their dividends if they have any equity in or ownership of land?
No, they cannot receive their equity if they have any ownership or equity in land. And I think the thinking behind this, you'll have to understand, is that we would like to make available to those patrons who have built GTA over the years so that they can take out that when they reach this age. But we feel that if you allow those who still have an equity in land so that they are still having some crops available to put onto the market, they will continue to earn some dividends both through their local elevators and through GTA, whether it's line elevator or local elevator. And so the thinking at this time is that those that are still using the marketing organization that they built up through GTA, that they feel that those people should continue to have an investment in that organization.
Thank you. Next question here, it could be either through GTA or the Cenex personnel, but I think I have Mr. Tvedt answer on this one. The question is, what is the attitude of the management of GTA and Cenex towards the co-op educational funds paid to the Farmers Union state organization?
Well, the question is, what is the attitude of management? And management, of course, has the attitude of their board of directors. I cannot speak for Barney Molesky personally, but I'm sure that Barney feels and Lowell both feel as our board of directors do. The board of directors of Cenex is on record at one of their recent board meetings, that would be since our last annual meeting in March, that the 5% educational fund service expense will not be altered in any way. In other words, that shall be an ongoing thing, and it will not be altered as far as the board is concerned. I might say that your book shows that last year $95,000 was paid by Cenex to the South Dakota Farmers Union, and this year I would imagine that figure will be more than twice that. So that, as Ben mentioned earlier today, some of that will be invested to take care of the valleys. We get some peaks once in a while, but also some valleys. But I would guess it'll be twice as much.
Thank you. Boy, the questions are coming in. This is good. We have a question from Mr. McMurray. The question is, what is your outlook for the cattlemen in the next year or two?
I think this question is I think we're repeating ourselves. I just want to say one thing. What is going on now that actually hurts the cattleman is the following. And maybe this will simplify a lot of questions. At the present time, we're slaughtering the young calves off of the southeast, off of the south, Texas, Louisiana. All of those light calves, a lot of them are finding their way only to slaughterhouses. Previous years, we had a group of people down south that were backgrounders. They bought these light calves and then they raised them up to 700 pounds, and then they sold them to the larger feedlots, and the larger feedlots took them from there on to finish. At the present time, the backgrounder's been squeezed out of the business because he has not been profitable for over 13 months to do this type of operation. And so this is the problem we're faced with now. These light calves are being slaughtered. Cows are being slaughtered at a record rate. Sows are being slaughtered. Everybody wants out of livestock just as fast as he can get out of it. And all I'm going to tell you people is the following. Please remember one thing. The majority of people are always wrong. And the majority of people, and if you doubt that, just stop and think about the last presidential election. The majority of people are always wrong. Now, the majority of people want out of livestock. And if the majority want out, all I can say is you never win by going with the majority. If you're talking about making money in the livestock business, don't get rid of it. Now's the time to get a few more than what you normally have. And I realize most of you think, well, that's the dumbest suggestion I ever heard. And all I'm going to say is this. At a $20 feeder pig and $3.50 corn, you could have, and we are in the board of directors of the Farmers Union Marketing and Processing, has authorized this company to look into future hedging of your livestock. In other words, there was a moment in time, just 7 days ago, at $20 feeder pig and $3.50 corn, you could have sold your hog. Through this venture that we're looking into, it's not implemented yet, but it is in the process of being implemented. You could have locked yourself in $26 a pig profit above all costs. And so all I can say is those of you who say you can't make money with this, I don't want corn to go to $1. I don't even want it to go to $2. But by the same token, I think that we have to look farther than just today. And I think it's a good time to get in the livestock business rather than get out of it.
Thank you. Got a 3-point question here next for Mr. Hargens. I'll read all 3 parts and then I'll let him talk on them as he comes to them. First part is, Bill Thatcher is still around. What will the grain price be in the near future? And he's going to have a little trouble with that, I'm afraid. What is wheat worth now?
We might as well go right down the order. Mr. Thatcher is still around. Good health, as I understand. Last time I saw him was probably about a year ago now. But from what reports I get, he's in good health, enjoying himself. Retirement. And the last two, what will the price of wheat be or what will the grain price be in the near future? Just can't say that. I got a lot of problems with that one. You probably have a lot better judge than I do. I think overall we look for the grain markets to stay, let's just say, as a wide statement, stay in the vicinity where they are. As I mentioned in my report about GTA, we have a delicate balance there, supply and demand. Depends on what happens on those. It should allow a big grain sale to Russia or any other export that would probably tend to raise the price. While if we don't make any export sales, it may mean that prices would drop off. And when you say what is wheat worth now, I don't know really what you mean. And I couldn't tell you because it's impossible for me to say as I go out on these, I'm one day right in Montana, and the next day I'm in South Dakota, and sometime in Minnesota, and so I generally think when you say what the wheat's worth now, you want to know what it is at your local station. And if you're, I suppose what you mean by that is what the dollar and cent value is on the market. I'm sorry, but I can't tell you right away today. It's easier if I could take your local newspaper, and you can probably find out then. I don't have your dollar and cent value. Maybe one of the managers in the area here can give you some idea of what your interest in the local market.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just want to say a word on Mr. Hargens there. When Secretary Bush or President Ford declared the embargo on wheat, we all knew it was going to drop. I wired in and sold my wheat crop right away at $5.12. Next day it was $4.60, I believe. And it's hard for you to tell what Ford or Bush is going to do. But we have to use our own judgment. 50 cents to half a dollar the next day.
Very true, thank you. If anyone else has any comments like that, then feel free to stand and be recognized. The next question we have is for Mr. Tvedt. And this card, there's no name or specific area, but I guess it really doesn't make any difference because it could be in any area in the state. And the question is, in our area, the Cenex charges for the use of the fertilizer spreader and ammonia applicators when you buy the product from them. But the other dealers in the fertilizer and ammonia in the area do not charge for the equipment. Cenex also appears to be about $30 higher on the fertilizer. If you pay rent on the machine, it costs considerably more to fertilize the field. Would it be possible to get them in line with the other producers in the area?
These are charges that are made by local cooperatives that, of course, are governed locally. And Cenex in St. Paul has no authority or jurisdiction as to what is charged at the local level. I would say this on behalf of the local cooperatives, however, that the service that they provide and all of the facilities that they have, the people that they hire to service their patrons, the money that they have tied up in their applicators and their spreaders is tremendous, and I'm sure that South Dakota is the same as every other state. I know that it is. And that is that the cooperatives do render a better service and give a better overall fertility service than any of their non-co-op counterparts. As far as price is concerned, if there was no cooperative, if you did not have your own cooperative facilities today, processing, manufacturing, transportation, and so forth, I dare say that fertilizer today would be costing in the neighborhood of $350. At CF Industries in Chicago, we have a department. There's a department called I can't remember the exact name for it, but if we want fertilizer, if any of the regionals want to buy fertilizer over and above their allocation, we go to this department and ask them to go on the outside someplace and try and buy us some fertilizer. And we have not found to date any nitrogenous material or phosphatic materials that we can buy for less than $345 a ton. And the reason for that is because that's what the investor-oriented company can get by exporting it overseas. Now, there may be isolated areas where a local cooperative is higher than their competitor down the street, but believe me, it's isolated and it is not general.
Thank you. For Mr. McMurray, are cattle prices as bad in the southeast as they are here in our area?
Just going to say one thing. You don't have to just say the southeast. Yes, they're, in fact, I'll put it this way. These slaughter calves are going to slaughter between 18 and 20 cents a pound. So if you fellas think it's tough here, you start thinking about selling your calves at 18 cents. And I know that you're all thinking 30 or 35. So you see, they are, and they're quite a lot lower. And the other thing that's going on, and I really don't understand this, but the packers in Sioux Falls are getting tremendous calls on large quantities of feedlot cattle that are ready to be slaughtered, and they're in Utah and Oregon and Washington, and they're bringing them in by truck to be slaughtered here because they're only being offered less than 24 cents for a finished heifer on the West Coast, and they're still getting somewhere around 34 cents for them here. So the cattle that would normally go to the West Coast are coming to this part of the country. And these people don't even have to bid on these cattle. I mean, they just say, we'll send them to you. And after you kill them and sell them and smell them and whatever you want to do with this, send us what they're worth. And what a way to market a product. Terrible. It's a terrible situation. If you think it's going to let up in the next few weeks, you're wrong. This thing's going to get worse before it gets better. But when it does get better, it's going to get a lot better. If you could just sweat it through till we get these cows and calves and all those West Coast cattle killed.
Thank you. Question for Mr. Hargens. Should the GTA pay interest on preferred stock?
Should GTA pay interest on preferred stock? GTA as such has no preferred stock outstanding except our 6% probably, and they do pay 6% of that. Now, it gets back to, I suppose, the same thing as any dividend that you might have in a cooperative, and this policy is one that is set by the board of directors, and I think that most of your marketing cooperatives do not pay interest on, let's say, the net worth of the company. In other words, this is the investment that you as a patron hold in the cooperative. In your local co-op, earnings that you earn during the year are accumulated. You get a certain percent in cash and the rest of it is accumulated. And generally speaking, I think it's a policy of, I'd say 90 or maybe 95% of cooperatives that they do not pay interest on this investment that the patrons have in their cooperative.
Thank you. We're going to run a little bit over. Ben, are you here? Yeah. Ben, how long do you want question and answer period one? I know we're not going to get through all of the questions here. Okay, fine. I'll go over a few more. Question for Jerry Tvedt. This is two of them here. I'm going to run them together. They're kind of similar. The first one, is it possible for the Farmers Union Central Exchange to lower the price of gasoline, and also number two, fuel used for heating homes? And the other one, similar type question, why is propane so high?
Yes, it is possible to lower the price of gasoline and diesel. The objective, folks, however, is to be as competitive as possible and then come up with the earnings from that so that, as I mentioned before, that we can spend another $50 million on increasing refinery capacity at Laurel, so that we can spend many millions of dollars on exploration, so that you will end up with the natural resources and the facilities you need to come up with your own gasoline and oil. And of course, just let me say that today, earlier this afternoon, I emphasized and re-emphasized the need to be basic, the need to have your own resources, the need to have your own facilities, so that you have the security of getting the product. And I believe that's number one. But number two is the tremendous savings that you will ultimately realize from having all of these facilities. Now, it takes some dollars to get them, but once you get them and have them amortized, tremendous savings over and above what you have experienced in the past that you will get. So that, as the old saying goes, that everything that's paid over and above the cost of doing business does come back in the form of dividends. And why is propane so high? Because of the supply and demand situation. Now, I know there are some soft spots in propane. I expect that they're going to firm up in a hurry with the early frost that we had once we get into the drying season. And if the cold winter is coming as predicted, then they will firm up. Now, very honestly, Cenex is not always competitive on propane. We have 25 million gallons of propane at the present time left over from last year that sit in salt caverns down in Kansas. That's where it's stored. That's the way propane is stored as a rule. That we'll be selling for less than we paid for it. Well, that's because it was bought during the high market last year when we bought enough so that we thought we would be able to take care of everybody. Well, that didn't materialize. Didn't need as much. So it's a little bit soft. We buy most of our propane from Canada, and believe me, they do not compete with the American market. We have to buy from Canada if we're going to have enough to serve the local cooperatives and in turn their basic use. But I do believe that propane will probably be coming up a little bit more in the near future.
Thank you. I have one more here I'm going to run through before we quit. For Mr. Hargens, the question is South Dakota Wheat Growers a member of GPA?
Yes, South Dakota Wheat Growers are a member of GPA, and we enjoy big business from them. They market the majority of their grain through us. I think I just talked to Mr. Wiley here a minute ago, and I think he's the man in charge of the Aberdeen office, and I think he said at this time he's getting 90% of the grain that they market.
Thank you, Mr. Hargens. At this time, we have, there are 6 or 8 questions left, Ken. I know these 3 gentlemen will all be around here after a little bit, so if any of you have individual questions that didn't get answered, I'm sure that they would be more than happy to visit with you about them after the meeting here this afternoon. At this time, I'll turn the program back to Mr. Redcliffe.
I'd like to thank these people very much for being part of our program, part of your program, and they did a splendid job in their presentations and their response. Okay, now we're going to, I have 2 or 3 politicians I want to introduce, so those of you may want to see who's here. I think a young lady by the name of Joyce Hazelton, who is a Republican candidate for Secretary of State, is here. Joyce, are you still here? Where? Stand up. Oh, there she is in the back. Blonde back there, Joyce Hazelton. And is Norma Klinkle here? Okay, here's Norma. Keep standing, Norma. Norma is running for a Public Utility Commission for the state of South Dakota. A very, very important office as far as farmers are concerned, Norma Klinkle. And then we have a candidate from Clark, District 7, McMurray, M-A-K-E-N-S, Makins. Well, where are you, Mary? There she is, running for the legislature from District 7. That's part of Clark, Kingsbury, and that region. Okay? And now I've got another announcement here. Bob Weber is also a candidate for the legislature from Grant County. Stand up, Bob. Bob is also chairman of our resolutions committee because he's chairman of the county councilors, and that committee is going to be meeting over here at 5 o'clock. Right back in that corner. Also on that committee is Cliff Gascoigne and Ruth Fairchild. Another candidate is Phil Testerman here now. Hey, Phil. Phil Testerman is a candidate for the legislature and also a director of GTA. And Adam Seidel, I've already told you he is a candidate. Are there any other candidates that want to be introduced? If not, I'd like to have the delegates stay here and come to the front table if you're not on one of these tables. And I'd like to have the board of directors up on the platform. And Mary Davis up on the platform. And will the pages see that everybody has a copy of the policy program? And for whatever time you want to look at that policy program, 15 minutes, a half hour, whatever you want to look at it, it's up to you. I expect you'll read some and get all ready to go to work on it tomorrow. All right, we've got the delegates up front, and we'll handle this any way you want to handle it. In previous years, we have taken a few minutes on Monday evening and read into the program, because I know a lot of you have just seen it for the first time today. We have asked members of the board to read the program, and we'll read for as long as you want to kind of get the feel of it, and not really adopt anything, and then come back tomorrow afternoon. We've got most of tomorrow afternoon set aside for adoption, and then deal with it as far as adoption goes at that time. But we'll handle it any way the delegates want to handle it. What do you want to do with the program as of right now? Okay, suggestion has been made. I guess it's a motion that we proceed to read it, get familiar with it, and then adopt it tomorrow, right? Okay, Jim Stormo has seconded that motion. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, no. That's the way we'll do it, then. And I think I'll just call on the late blender to come up here and start reading this program. And do you want to set a time? If you want to quit, how about 5:30? Okay? Well, it's up to you how long you read, and I'll just let Leif start.
Begin on the first page and begin with national affairs. 8. Need to preserve the family farm. We consider the family type farm to be the keystone around which our highly successful agricultural system has developed. We believe further that the best interest and welfare of the nation is inherent in the preservation of a family farm pattern of agriculture. A family farm is an agricultural production unit which can be efficiently operated by a full-time farmer and his family that provides most of its own labor and derives most of their income from the farm. A crisis of great magnitude is now developing that threatens extinction of this family farm system of agriculture and the nation's food supply as well, for it is only by keeping the land in the hands of the many that the food supply for the nation can be assured. Corporate control of American food production is inevitable unless we can reverse the present trend. B. A bold new program to preserve the family farm. Sub-parity farm prices have forced thousands of family farmers into bankruptcy each year. South Dakota Farmers Union has recommended a bold new approach to farm income improvement that will guarantee the nation's food supply. This new approach is based on the premise that a social contract exists between the family farm food producers and the non-farm people in our society, whereby farmers produce a steady and dependable supply of food and fiber products in return for full parity price for this production. We commend the Congress for its passage of the Agriculture and Consumer Protection Act of 1973. The new legislation includes concepts that move us in the direction of the types of programs recommended by the South Dakota Farmers Union